The breaking point. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic HFY Council gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns, its crystal dome refracting countless colors across the gathered representatives of over 300 species. The tiered seating arrangement was a deliberate design. The founding members and most powerful species sat closest to the central speaking platform, with newer and less influential species relegated to the upper tiers. Humanity, despite its rapid technological advancement and impressive colonial expansion over the past century, remained stubbornly placed in the middle tiers. Earth's primary representative, Ambassador Elena Reyes, sat perfectly still in her simple Navy diplomatic uniform, a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garb of the other representatives. Her dark eyes reflected none of the magnificent light show above as she reviewed data on her neural interface. First speaker Tulvik, a massive being composed of what appeared to be living crystal, raised all 4 of his upper appendages to call for silence. The hall gradually quieted as his resonant voice filled the chamber. The Council recognizes the 23rd cycle of human participation in our Grand Alliance. We commend Earth's compliance with technological restriction guidelines and resource-sharing protocols. His crystalline form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as pleasure. Ambassador Reyes, the Council invites Earth's statement. Elena stood, straightening her already impeccable posture. At 58, she carried herself with the poise of someone who had spent decades in diplomatic service. She approached the central platform without hurry, her measured steps echoing in the now silent hall. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent that caused several species with enhanced auditory perception to shift uncomfortably. For 97 Earth years, humanity has participated in this council. We have abided by your technological advancement timelines. We have shared our resources according to your quotas. We have limited our military vessels to the prescribed numbers. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled representatives. We have, in all ways, been the model of cooperation. First speaker Tulvik's crystalline body emitted a pleasant harmonic tone. Indeed, Ambassador, Earth's compliance has been. It was not a compliment. Elena interrupted, causing a ripple of shock through the assembly. Interrupting the first speaker was considered deeply disrespectful. Elena tapped her neural interface, and a holographic display appeared above the central platform. What I am about to show you was obtained through means I will not disclose. The hologram displayed a meeting room, much smaller than the current hall but recognizable to all present as the inner council chamber, where only the founding species were permitted. The timestamp indicated a date 43 years ago. The humans are advancing too quickly, said a younger Tulvik in the recording. Their propensity for innovation threatens the established order. Their latest communication technology would render our monitoring systems obsolete. Added a gaseous entity, it represented the myth collective. We must sabotage their progress. Agreed, came the consensus. Introduce subtle errors in their research data. Ensure their scientists reach contradictory conclusions. We cannot allow them to surpass the technological benchmarks we have established. The recording ended, and Elena stood in silence as the implications rippled through the assembly. Some representatives appeared shocked, others nervous, and a few, notably those from newer species, looked suddenly thoughtful. This is outrageous. Tulvik's crystalline form had darkened to a deep blue. This recording is clearly fabricated. Such disrespect. We have 37 such recordings, Elena interrupted again, spanning nearly 8 decades, documenting systematic sabotage not just of human advancement, but of at least 42 other species. She gestured, and the hologram changed to display a series of scientific papers, research notes, and data sets. Our scientists became suspicious 20 years ago, when identical errors began appearing across unrelated research projects. We created a parallel scientific community, hidden from your monitoring systems, to verify our findings. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes had hardened. Every technological limitation you claimed was natural was, in fact, artificial. Every research dead end was your creation. The chamber erupted into chaos. Newer species demanded explanations, while representatives from the inner tiers called for order. The atmospheric processors worked overtime to compensate for the increased respiration and pheromone releases of agitated species. Elena waited until Tlivik managed to restore some semblance of order before continuing. Humanity joined this council in good faith. We believed we were part of a collaborative effort to maintain galactic peace and prosperity. She removed a small object from her pocket, an actual paper envelope, sealed with wax, an archaic form of communication that many in the chamber had never seen before. This contains Earth's formal withdrawal from all Council treaties and agreements, effective immediately. The chaos that followed was even greater than before. Tlvik's crystalline form vibrated at a frequency that threatened to shatter nearby objects as he shouted over the din. You cannot withdraw. The treaties are binding. The consequences are specified clearly in Section 7, Paragraph 12 of the Founding Charter. Elena completed smoothly. In cases of proven deception by Council leadership, any member species may withdraw with immediate effect. The evidence we have presented constitutes such proof. This is unprecedented, bellowed the representative from the Vorn Empire, a militaristic species that had always regarded humans with suspicion. If you leave the Council, you forfeit all protection. Your colonies will be isolated, your trade routes. We are well aware of the implications, Elena interrupted for the third time. Humanity has prepared for this eventuality. She turned to address the wider assembly, particularly the representatives in the upper tiers. To any species who suspect they have been similarly manipulated, Earth extends an open hand. Our outposts will remain accessible to you. We will share what we have learned, not through controlled drips of information as this council has done, but openly and without reservation. Elena walked toward the exit, but paused before leaving. You taught us caution, patience, and how to recognize manipulation. For that, at least we thank you. As the doors closed behind her, the Grand Assembly Hall descended into complete disarray. Representatives argued vehemently, accusations flew between longtime allies, and the administrative AIs struggled to maintain translation services amidst the overlapping voices. In the chaos, no one noticed as representatives from 12 other species quietly left their seats and followed the path Elena had taken. Outside the Council headquarters, Elena walked briskly to the human diplomatic shuttle where Captain Miguel Santos waited at attention. Is it done? He asked as the entry portal sealed behind her. Elena nodded, settling into her seat. Send the signal. Captain Santos pressed his palm against a biometric scanner, then spoke clearly. Authorization, Santos 7, Alpha Omega. Implement Protocol Avalanche. Across the 57 human colony worlds, hidden facilities activated. Massive shield generators, concealed beneath innocent-looking infrastructure, powered up. Fleets of ships that had been officially registered as civilian transports revealed military-grade armaments. Orbital platforms that supposedly monitored weather patterns reconfigured to defensive postures. And across the galaxy, human agents embedded in Council worlds initiated their contingency orders. Not to attack or sabotage, but to reveal. Data packets containing evidence of Council manipulation were simultaneously broadcast on all frequencies and communication networks. The age of human compliance had ended. The Council's careful control was unraveling, and no one, not even Elena, could predict what would emerge from the chaos. Back in the Council chamber, First Speaker Tlvik retreated to an emergency session with the Inner Council. His crystalline form had dulled to an ashen gray as reports flooded in. How much do they know? Demanded the representative of the Arxer Dominion. Too much, replied the Myth Collective representative, its gaseous form swirling anxiously. The humans have been playing us for fools. They've been building a shadow infrastructure for decades. We must contain this immediately, Tlvik declared. Dispatch the peacekeeping fleet. Blockade Earth and all human colonies. We cannot allow their defiance to stand. None of them noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the room, its surveillance functions supposedly offline for routine maintenance. Inside its circuits, a quantum transmitter relayed every word to a human listening post 16 light-years away. The Council's response was exactly as humanity had predicted, but they had severely underestimated what 97 years of patience and preparation had accomplished. The breaking point had been reached. What would follow would reshape the galaxy forever. The new paradigm. Admiral Kaido Nakamura stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance, watching the tactical display with calm satisfaction. The massive dreadnought, officially registered in Council records as a deep space scientific research vessel, was the flagship of humanity's first fleet, a military force whose existence had been carefully concealed from the Council for decades. Council fleet approaching, Admiral, reported his tactical officer. Composition matches intelligence predictions. 27 capital ships, approximately 100 support vessels. Nakamura nodded. Right on schedule. Status of the shield grid. Fully operational across all 57 colonies, sir. Earth itself is showing green across all sectors. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. Open a channel to the approaching fleet. The communications officer worked her console. Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Nakamura of the Earth Defense Force. You are approaching sovereign human space. Be advised that any hostile action will be met with proportionate response. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our territory. The reply came quickly, transmitted by a Tulhaxi commander, a species known for their military prowess and unwavering loyalty to the Council. This is Commander Vexhall of the Council Peacekeeping Force. Your species has violated the terms of your membership agreement. Power down your weapon systems and prepare to receive Council representatives who will oversee your return to compliance. Nakamura's expression remained unchanged. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Commander. Humanity is no longer bound by Council agreements. We have evidence of systematic sabotage and manipulation of our technological development, which nullifies all treaties. This evidence has been shared with every species in Council space. There was a pause before Vexhall responded, his tone less certain. You are making a grave error. The Council has maintained peace for over 2,000 cycles. Without our guidance, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Perhaps, Nakamura conceded, or perhaps true cooperation might emerge without coercion. Either way, humanity has made its decision. The tactical officer's console chimed. Sir, the Council fleet is deploying in attack formation. Energy readings indicate weapon systems charging. Nakamura sighed. So be it. Activate Defense Grid Alpha. Targeted response only. I want minimal casualties. Across the formation of human ships, advanced weapon systems that had been developed in secret came online. Not planet killers or weapons of mass destruction, but precision instruments designed to disable rather than destroy. The Council fleet opened fire first, energy weapons lancing toward the human ships. They impacted against shields far more advanced than what the Council believed humans capable of producing. In response, the human fleet fired a coordinated barrage of electromagnetic pulses and targeted ion beams. Council ships began to drift, their systems disabled but their crews unharmed. It was over in less than 15 minutes. Status report, Nakamura ordered. Minimal damage to our fleet. Council vessels are disabled but life support systems remain functional. No casualties reported on either side. Nakamura nodded. Open a channel to Commander Vexhall. The Tulhaxi appeared on screen, his rigid exoskeleton betraying no emotion, but his secondary appendages twitched in what humans had learned indicated extreme agitation. This is unprecedented, Vexhall stated. Your technology should not be capable of defeating the mighty Council fleet. Nakamura finished for him. That was precisely the point of our demonstration, Commander. The Council has systematically underestimated humanity, deliberately holding back our development. No more. What are your terms? Vexhall asked stiffly. We have no interest in conquest or domination, concepts the Council seems obsessed with. Your crews will be provided emergency power to return to Council space. Take this message back. Humanity desires peaceful coexistence, but on equal terms, not as subordinates. Any further military action against us will be met with the same response. As the disabled Council fleet limped away, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The data packets revealing Council manipulation had created exactly the ripple effect humanity had anticipated. Species that had chafed under Council restrictions began questioning their membership. Trade agreements were being renegotiated outside Council oversight. Several mid-tier species had already announced their withdrawal. On Earth, the Global Senate convened an emergency session. Ambassador Alina Rice presented her report on the events of the Council and their aftermath. The Council is in disarray, she explained to the assembled senators. Our evidence has sparked what can only be described as a revolution in galactic politics. 17 species have already indicated their desire to form new alliances with Earth. And the military response? Asked the Senate President. Precisely as Admiral Nakamura predicted. The Council fleet was unprepared for our actual technological capabilities. Their defeat has further undermined Council authority. What happens next? Someone called out. Alina's expression was solemn. We opened a door, but what lies beyond is uncertain. The galactic order that has existed for millennia is collapsing. Something new will emerge. 3 weeks later, representatives from 42 species gathered on the neutral moon of Proxima Centauri. Unlike the hierarchical arrangement of the Council chamber, they met in a circular formation, with no species elevated above others. Alina Rice represented Earth. Welcome to the first gathering of what we propose to call the Coalition of Free Species, she began. Each of us has experienced the Council's manipulation. Each has chosen independence. Now we must decide what comes next. Gratok, representative of the Volari, a species whose technological development had been particularly hampered by Council interference, spoke next. The old Council maintained control by keeping species isolated from each other, creating artificial hierarchies, and manipulating our development. We propose a different approach: open exchange of knowledge, mutual defense, and true self-determination. The discussions continued for days, sometimes heated but always productive. Unlike the Council, where decisions were effectively made by the inner tier and simply announced to the rest, here every voice was heard. In the end, a new compact was formed. The coalition would maintain mutual defense agreements and free trade, but each species would retain sovereignty over its own development and governance. Knowledge would be shared openly, and any restrictions on technological advancement would be determined by ethical considerations, not political control. As the gathering concluded, Alina found herself approached by an unexpected figure, Tlvik himself, the first speaker of the now crumbling Council. You have destroyed what took thousands of cycles to build, he said, his crystalline form dull with what might have been sorrow. Alina regarded him thoughtfully. We dismantled a system built on deception and control. What rises in its place may be messy, uncertain, and at times chaotic, but it will be honest. You cannot understand the consequences, Tlvik insisted. There are threats in this galaxy that the Council has contained, enemies you know nothing about. Then perhaps it's time for transparency about those as well, Alina replied. The species gathered here represent a significant portion of the galaxy's scientific and military capability. Together, facing the truth rather than hiding behind comfortable lies, we may find we're stronger than the Council ever allowed us to be. Tlvik's crystalline form shimmered with an emotion Alina couldn't interpret. Time will tell, human. Time will tell. As Tlvik departed, Alina turned to watch the representatives of the newly formed coalition. Species that had been kept apart by Council machinations were now engaging directly. Ideas were being exchanged, alliances formed, friendships kindled. Captain Santos' approach, offering a datapad. Latest intelligence, Ambassador. 26 more species have requested membership in the coalition. And the Council, it's effectively collapsed. Only the founding species remain, their influence waning by the day. Elena nodded, unsurprised. Change was inevitable. Miguel. The Council feared it, tried to control it. We embraced it. And now, he asked. She gestured toward the gathered representatives. Now we build something better. Not perfect, not without challenges, but founded on truth and cooperation, rather than manipulation and fear. Across the galaxy, the old order was indeed collapsing. For the first time in thousands of years, species were charting their own courses, forming alliances based on mutual interest rather than council dictates. Trade routes shifted, new technologies emerged from previously suppressed research, and a new era of galactic relations began to take shape. Humanity had not sought to become the center of this new paradigm, merely its catalyst. The species who had been kept down the longest often emerged as the most innovative once freed from council restrictions. The Volari revolutionized propulsion technology. The Makari, once relegated to the highest tiers of the council chamber, revealed breakthrough medical technologies they had developed in secret. 6 months after humanity's dramatic exit from the council, Admiral Nakamura and Ambassador Reyes stood in the observatory of the newly constructed coalition headquarters on Proxima Centauri, watching ships from dozens of species arrive for the first formal assembly. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Nakamura asked quietly. Elena considered the question carefully. The Council maintained a certain kind of peace through control and manipulation. What we've created is messier, less predictable. But more just, Nakamura added. Yes, she agreed. More just. And ultimately, I believe, more stable. Systems built on lies eventually collapse. We've built something on truth, difficult, complicated truth. Below them, representatives from across the galaxy filed into the assembly chamber, not in the rigid hierarchical order of the Council, but as equals. The challenges ahead were significant. Not all species had embraced the new order, and the former Council founders still controlled significant resources. But for the first time in millennia, the future of the galaxy would be determined not by the few in power, but by the many in cooperation. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply shown that another way was possible. What came next would be written together.